The American Academy of Pediatrics is out with a new recommendation regarding students wearing masks for the upcoming school year, what the new guidance means for students in the Brazos Valley. Plus, a nonprofit in the Bryan College Station area is working to help adults with disabilities find work and a place of belonging. Your KRHD News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley, this is KRHD News.
Good evening and thank you for watching KRHD News at 6. I'm Hallie Jones. While public school districts in Texas cannot mandate students to wear masks, some experts are still heavily encouraging masking up this fall. KRHD reporter Rebecca Fiedler spoke with the Brazos Valley School District, who says if kids want to mask up, they'll be ready.
The American Academy of Pediatrics issued a recommendation this week urging parents to mask their children over the age of 2 in an attempt to keep COVID-19 from spreading so that schools may continue to be open for in-person learning. The recommendation, issued Sunday, notes that evidence shows COVID-19 has a low transmission rate in schools when masks are worn and other public health precautions are correctly followed. Local students like Ashlyn Cryer of Bryan ISD say they still plan to wear their masks.
I just don't want it to spread around, and I don't want to get it. I think about older people in my family or other people that are sick.
Many kids attending school and daycare are still too young to be eligible for a vaccine and are at risk with new variations of the coronavirus circulating throughout the country. Alex Quinones, a father of 3 children in the Anderson-Shiro School District, says he is concerned that parents will be potentially sending students to class without masks. As an EMT, Quinones says he's seen too many people still being hurt by respiratory diseases.
Fortunately, we can't tell other parents what to do, but as a parent, I want to protect my child as best as possible from this virus. I know personally in my family and working with the virus as well, I know how deadly it can be.
Governor Greg Abbott issued an executive order in May prohibiting public schools from requiring masks on students. Schools like Bryan ISD will be following the governor's orders, but also will make masks available for families that want them.
We have some masks left over that if a student requests a mask, we can give that mask to them. We saw in summer school and we saw in the power camps that are going on right now that a lot of students are still wearing masks, but masks will not be mandated at all.
The AAP noted that in addition to protecting against COVID-19, wearing a mask protects children from other respiratory illnesses that are circulating this time of year. They urge the need to reduce COVID outbreaks in order to keep schools open for in-person attendance, as online learning created educational barriers for a number of students.
I don't like online school.
Local school districts such as Caldwell ISD are still deciding whether to distribute masks to children this year, as they aren't sure whether children will actually wear the masks. Reporting from the Brazos Valley, Rebecca Fiedler, KRHD News.
According to the Mayo Clinic, only 11.6% of Texans ages 12 to 17 have received at least one dose of the coronavirus vaccine. The number of people in that age range fully vaccinated drops down to 9.9%. Statewide, just under 60% of the total population has been vaccinated with at least one shot. Nearly 12.4 million people are fully vaccinated, with more than 14.3 million with at least one shot. Canada says it's opening its borders to vaccinated Americans starting August 9th. Unvaccinated minors under 12 years old who are entering with parents or guardians will not have to quarantine anymore. The Canadian Minister of Transportation says you must have documentation proving that you are vaccinated to enter.
Starting August 9th, air carriers will begin verifying that travelers coming to Canada have submitted their COVID-19 information digitally through the ArriveCAN app or website before boarding a flight. This includes information and documentation to demonstrate that they are fully vaccinated.
Also, fully vaccinated travelers will not need a post-arrival COVID-19 test unless they have been randomly selected at the border. Anyone not vaccinated cannot enter the country. 5 members of the Texas House of Representatives have now tested positive for COVID-19. All 5 who have tested positive are fully vaccinated and are not experiencing any major symptoms. Vice President Kamala Harris is not believed to have been at risk of exposure from her meeting with Texas State House Democrats this week. The lawmakers are part of the group that left Texas to break quorum in Austin and block the voting bill from passing. And another Olympic athlete has tested positive for the coronavirus. Kara Aker, an alternate member of the U.S. women's gymnastics team, tested positive yesterday. Her father says she is not experiencing any symptoms and is vaccinated. Another alternate for the team is in isolation after having had close contact with Aker. That athlete has not yet been identified. Officials say the number of COVID-19 cases linked to the 2021 Olympic Games has risen to 61. Last week, a federal judge in Texas ruled the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, is illegal. KRHD reporter Rachel Espaillat brings us the latest on how this impacts those across the Lone Star State, including here in the Brazos Valley.
DACA provides some relief, allowing kids brought to this country as children, often known as dreamers, a way to get their worker's permit, Social Security, and a driver's license in the state of Texas. A federal judge ruling this program illegal and blocking applications is pulling that little bit of relief away. Activists say it's time for Congress to take action to continue to allow dreamers to be productive members of society.
It's time that we give these young people the ability to be full members of society and to bring even more of that energy, that gusto for life and for justice to our entire society.
The Biden administration says that they plan to appeal the ruling. In College Station, Rachel Espaillat, KRHD News.
Across the country, more than 600,000 people are DACA recipients. That number includes the over 100,000 DACA recipients here in the Lone Star State. Texas currently has the second most DACA recipients in the country, behind California. So who does this new ruling of DACA affect? According to the Texas Tribune, the ruling won't have any effect on the current 600,000 recipients who have had the 2-year renewable work permits. But the Tribune says it will affect about 50,000 new applicants nationwide who are not approved before Friday's ruling.
The news feed starts with the Biden administration blaming China. The White House says Chinese intelligence is behind an attack on Microsoft's email software this year. The attack impacted thousands of computers around the world. Haiti's acting prime minister will step down. He took over after Haiti's president was assassinated July 7th. There has been a power struggle going on in the country since that assassination. The person now taking over does have the backing of the international community. President Biden has sent a Guantanamo Bay detainee back to his home country. This is a policy shift from the Trump administration. This Moroccan man was actually recommended for release in 2016 after it was determined he was no longer needed to protect the United States. Tenants are in limbo with the federal eviction moratorium set to end this month.
What's it been like living under that cloud of when is this going to end?
It felt like medieval times when there's an axe just lowering over your head and your head is about to get cut off. That's exactly how it felt.
Why the rental assistance that's been approved still isn't reaching everyone who needs it.
When we come back, Ford is issuing a major recall on several models of trucks and SUVs. But first, in the current car market, getting a car new or used is starting to get very expensive. But now some used SUVs and pickup trucks are becoming more expensive than new ones. We'll tell you about it next. The crazy car market is getting crazier again. Some new SUVs and pickup trucks are getting so hard to find that used models now cost more than new. Consumer reporter John Matarese explains so you don't waste your money.
Savvy shoppers have always bought used cars and trucks to save thousands of dollars over buying a new one. But in this crazy year, some used vehicles are now costing more than new. The price of used cars has gone up and up this year because of soaring demand and the computer chip shortage, keeping many new vehicles parked. The result? Some one-year-old used vehicles can now cost you more than the same car brand new, according to iSeeCars.com. Among them, the Kia Telluride, $3,000 more for a used version. GMC Sierra pickup, $3,000 more used. Toyota Tacoma pickup, $3,000 more used. Many others, including Toyota 4Runners, the Hyundai Palisade, and more, are selling for a $1,000 premium used. If you can find a new one, that's the better deal, but you got to find one first. And from the Doesn't That Stink file, the holy grail of cars you can't find. The new full-sized Ford Bronco. Used ones really don't exist. And one New York dealer is charging $30,000 over sticker price for new Broncos, according to Motor Trend. Doesn't that stink? It's crazy, but the good news is that, like with all bubbles, it won't last forever. Dealers hope used car prices start falling back to earth in September, when car sales typically slow down. As always, don't waste your money. I'm John Matteries, 25 News.
To a consumer alert, Ford has recalled hundreds of thousands of vehicles. The car maker announced Friday that it's recalling 775,000 Ford Explorer SUVs. The move comes after reports of 6 injuries related to steering issues in the U.S. The recall applies to 2013 through 2017 model of the Explorer. Ford also recalled tens of thousands of trucks and Lincoln Aviators. Issues with those cars have not led to injuries. And major Japanese car manufacturer Toyota says they will not be running Olympic-themed ads this year. Toyota is one of the top sponsors of the Games. A company spokesperson says the company never planned on any Olympic-related commercials in the first place, also confirming that Toyota's CEO will not be attending the Olympics opening ceremonies on Friday. The United States government says China is responsible for the latest widespread cyber attacks. They say the hackers conducted a range of disabling activities around the world. A White House official says China was behind a specific ransomware attack against a target that involved a large ransom request. Officials say they have raised concerns with the Chinese government about the behavior. In Germany, the flooding death toll has now risen to at least 163 people. Hundreds more are still missing, according to authorities. The majority of the fatalities have been in the western Germany, where rescue operations continue tonight. Meanwhile, more flash floods continue to devastate towns and parts of eastern Germany. First Alert Chief Meteorologist Matt Hines is here with a look at our weather.
And we have seen a few scattered showers and thunderstorms across the Brazos Valley today. Those are mainly starting to dip down to the south, but a few isolated showers will be possible. And we have seen some clouds holding down temperatures into the 80s for a lot of us today, but it's still really humid outside. So it all feels about the same. We've had more thunderstorms back toward the Austin area into the big country as well. That will continue down to the south. And overall, it looks like this is probably our best chance of rain today, but we can't rule out some scattered thunderstorms over the next couple of afternoons. As we check out your future track between now and 10 o'clock, things will start to quiet down as the air mass starts to stabilize a bit as we lose the daytime heating. Going into Tuesday, we will have a chance for at least some widely scattered showers and storms, about a 20 to 30% chance, and not only Tuesday, but going into Wednesday as well. Partly to mostly cloudy skies in the morning, partly cloudy in the afternoon, and again, some isolated to widely scattered thunderstorms. Not nearly as widespread as what we saw, but we are going to be seeing some of those storms around from time to time. So tonight, temperatures will be dipping down into the 70s for us, around 73 for Bryan College Station, 71 Madisonville, Caldwell around 71, and same for Hearn. And then tomorrow, highs upper 80s, low 90s. We're supposed to be about 95, 96 degrees this time of year. So we're going to be below that. That's great news. But with the humidity, it's going to feel like it's 95, 96 degrees. So feeling about the same as it would if actual air temperatures are there, because we do have so much moisture in the atmosphere. And that's going to continue going into the middle part of the week as well. High temperatures right around 90 degrees. 20 to 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday, we again have about a 30% chance of rain. Temperatures may be a little warmer there at 92, up to 94 on Friday, 96 Saturday into Sunday. And notice how rain chances start to go away into your weekend. So that faucet looks like it's going to shut off for a little while, especially as we head into next week. Highs will be in the mid to upper 90s. Of course, that means it'll feel like it's over 100 degrees.
The federal moratorium on evictions was put in place to protect Americans financially strapped by the pandemic. The CDC says it was extended for the last time, expiring at the end of this month. But as Usher Qureshi reports, millions are still waiting for assistance and could face eviction when the clock runs out.
The clock is ticking.
With the temporary halt on evictions set to expire July 31st, Some tenants are feeling like they're running on empty.
What's it been like living under that cloud of when is this going to end?
It felt like medieval times when there's an axe just lowering over your head and your head is about to get cut off. That's exactly how it felt.
Sharon, who did not want her last name used out of fear of retribution from her landlord, says she's been out of work since the beginning of the outbreak, unable to pay her rent.
I actually am facing eviction, and it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing.
She's not alone. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, at the end of March, 6.4 million renter households were behind on their rent. As of July 5th, according to a Census Bureau survey, 3.6 million people said they would likely have to leave their homes in the next 2 months due to eviction.
That federal eviction moratorium has been a lifeline for those 6 million renters. It has been and is the last remaining protection, keeping them stably housed during this global pandemic until emergency rental assistance can reach them.
Diane Yentel is the president and CEO of the National Low Income Housing Coalition. She says despite over $46 billion in emergency rental assistance allocated to help tenants pay their past due rent, the money hasn't reached the vast majority of them yet.
There are states and cities who are working abysmally slowly to get this emergency rental assistance out. As of the end of May, there were 22 states who had sent zero of their emergency rental assistance funds yet.
Most eviction filings have been delayed in the courts until the moratorium expires. But once it lapses, Yentel says there could be a surge in filings and hearings.
There's a cliff at the end of the federal eviction moratorium, and unless states and cities do more and do it faster and better to get that emergency rental assistance to the tenants who need it, then we will see a historic wave of evictions and housing instability this summer and fall.
Sharon did apply for local renters assistance, but it's still in process. She says she knows she's running out of time.
I am in the mode of trying to figure out what it is that I'm going to do, start packing.
What else can you do?
That's all I can do.
All she can do until her stay runs out. Reporting from Chicago, I'm Usher Qureshi.
All right, Usher, thank you. Now, with the eviction moratorium ending soon, more people are turning to 211 for help. Housing continues to be the #1 concern that people are calling about.
There is, help being provided and help being paid to people who need that help with rent assistance. Many of our 211 services provide that direct application and payment assistance program.
Rental assistance has been slow to get everyone who needs it in some communities. The United Way says if you're running into dead ends, getting that help, well, keep calling 211. The nonprofit says it's been able to help provide tens of millions of dollars in rent assistance to help simply by assisting people with their application. But this is a bigger problem beyond just the pandemic.
Media assistance like rent is fantastic right now, and it's wonderful. And even in intermediate assistance and some of the rental programs that are available out there. But long-term sustainable solution is finding affordable housing so people can afford to pay their medical bills, to pay for food, to get their kids school supplies.
The other main concern that 211 has been helping with during the pandemic are healthcare, mental health, and food assistance. Now, typically 211 receives 11 million calls a year. New numbers show the service received more than 18 million calls in 2020 nationwide, and that's more than 49,000 a day. So far in 2021, they're answering more than 50,000 calls a day. People may call with one problem, but then 211 specialists can help get to the root of what's going on.
Maybe helping a family that is struggling financially recognize that they can reduce some of their expenses by signing up for things like the child tax credit or getting their taxes prepared and filed for free, or the earned income tax credit that often goes unclaimed in across the community.
211 is also hiring. If you are looking for a job, some of those positions are remote. You can find available jobs at 211.org by searching for our local 211. There are now just 4 days until the Tokyo Olympics, and game officials are reporting 12 new coronavirus cases since Sunday. That includes a replacement American gymnast, and the women's team and tennis star Coco Gauff. Now, Gauff says that she will no longer be participating in the games because of it. The gymnast is in quarantine along with another replacement athlete. Cases among athletes inside the Olympic Village are also now being reported. Now, in the meantime, Toyota is pulling Olympic-related ads from airing in Japan after the emerging cases. The car maker's president and top executives also say they will not be attending the opening ceremony this week. Now, this move from the big Olympic sponsor is another blow to the Games as they continue to face heavy criticism in Japan. A new worldwide study shows about 1 in 5 people suffering from long-haul COVID haven't been able to work because of their symptoms. Things like brain fog, fatigue, and headaches have gotten in the way for one woman as she tries to make ends meet for her family.
Honestly, we've even had to sold a few things to be able to pay bills because I tried to overcome it and I felt like it overcame me.
Now, she hopes that lawmakers will come up with some sort of pandemic assistance for long haulers who can no longer work. It will soon be less expensive to refinance your home. We'll talk about how much you could save with the recently added fee going away. Who stands to benefit the most? Well, there's a reason if you're still waiting for a sofa that's been delayed, because there's a nationwide shortage on foam. It's impacting several industries, including appliances and cars on top of furniture. Part of it's related to February's winter storm that shut down 5 plants in Texas and Louisiana. Now, it may also take you longer to get a new smartphone. A chip shortage that has impacted the car industry as well as appliances is now impacting phones. Samsung saw a 20% drop in shipments.
From t-shirts to hats, small businesses across this country are having a tough time keeping up with supply, as the supply chain across the world is still very much in limbo. I'm Chris Conti, and coming up tomorrow, we'll tell you what this could all mean for the upcoming holiday season.
All right, Chris, thank you. And the wreckage from TWA Flight 800 has been a training module for years, but that will soon change.
Being here physically is something different. Do you lose a little bit of that in not physically having this here for the people you're trying to train?
Well, I think that's a possibility. We certainly have thought about that.
We're getting an inside look at what is happening to the plane and the future of training.
One community in the Brazos Valley is providing meaningful work for lifelong relationships through work. KRHD News reporter Hannah King introduces us to Brazos Employment Enterprises, or the B Community, a nonprofit showing purpose behind the purchase.
The B Community is a place to shop with a purpose, as well as work and belong.
We're all about fun here. This is more than just a workplace or co-workers. They're my family, and because I don't have very much family left.
For Adam Sparkman, it's more than just song and dance.
I just love doing this job. You know, it's nowhere else for me right now.
He's coming up on almost 3 years as an artisan of the B Community, one of the nonprofit's first.
Like I'll be on the streets right now if I didn't have B Community or anything like that. So I was. I mean, at the time, I was desperate. Of course, back then, I was, desperate finding a job too, and everything like that. And I kept failing over and over and over because of my disability.
A space providing meaningful work and belonging for adults with disabilities.
Up to 80% of adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities are unemployed nationwide, and so the B Community wanted to step into that with a long-term, hope-filled, sustainable solution.
From
rigging earrings
to dog treats and a little bit of everything in between. 15 artisans with different abilities are employed here, experiencing dignity and worth that comes with work.
Having mutually benefiting relationships and friendships, but I think even more beautiful than that is seeing those untouched by disability, our volunteers, our customers, our donors, who lives are being changed because of our artisans having the opportunity to utilize their gifts and strengths and abilities to impact the community.
B Community joy felt by Sparkman's co-workers too, from a surprise visitor.
Reveille.
Yes. To
Hang out with my friends.
Building relationships. Each purchase directly affects the livelihoods of the artisans And by supporting their work, Ellerbrock says the narrative shifts to one of dignity and capability for adults with special needs.
Because they're good, not out of pity for who made them. So our artisans work really hard at their craft to be able to meet those high expectations.
Without them, I wouldn't have a job, so I'll be stuck at home. So, I mean, this is the only place I have right now. And other than Gold's Gym that I work out at, so.
There are a handful of places throughout the Brazos Valley that currently sell homemade items and goods from artisans here at the Bee community. If you would like information on how to have them in your shop or your business, visit our website. Reporting in Bryan, Hannah King, KRHD News.
SEC Media Day officially kicked off in Birmingham, Alabama this morning. WTAW's Zach Taylor has more with tonight's sportscast.
Here's your 25 sports update with WTAW's Zach Taylor.
Hey KRHD viewers, Texas A&M running back Isaiah Spiller has been named to the Maxwell Award preseason watch list. The Maxwell Award is presented annually to the nation's best collegiate player. Now teammate and defensive lineman DeMarvin Leal was pegged to the Bednarik Award watch list, given annually to the nation's best defensive player. Leal and offensive lineman Kenyon Green will accompany head coach Jimbo Fisher to SEC Media Days this Wednesday in Hoover, Alabama. Now, speaking of SEC Media Days, things officially kicked off today with Commissioner Greg Sankey taking the podium. Also speaking to the masses were Florida head coach Dan Mullen and Gators players, South Carolina new head man Shane Beamer and some Gamecocks players, as well as LSU head coach Ed Ogeron and some Tigers players. The Texas Rangers are looking to put a stop to a 5-game losing skid tonight as they're visiting the Detroit Tigers. First pitch was at 6:10. Meanwhile, the Houston Astros are trying to put a stop to a 2-game slide as they welcome the Cleveland Indians to town. Things got underway for that one at 7:10 at Minute Maid Park. From the WTAW Sports Studio, I'm Zach Taylor.
25 years ago, TWA Flight 800 exploded minutes after takeoff from New York's JFK Airport, killing everyone on board. Now the wreckage from that crash, which helped change aircraft design, will be destroyed. James Packard and our Newsy partners give us an inside look.
25 years after TWA 800, behind the doors of a huge warehouse outside Washington, D.C., the magnitude of the disaster gets very real. But when you look at that, and you realize the power of that explosion and that there were people sitting right next to those windows.
And the twisting, the twisting of the metal.
Yeah.
Like this piece up here that's sort of curled back.
The Mangle reconstructed wreckage has for years now been a training module and living example of the deadly consequences when things go wrong. But now it's set to be pulled apart and destroyed.
Being here physically is something different. Mm-hmm. Do you lose a little bit of that in not physically having this here for the people you're trying to train? Well, I think that's a possibility. We certainly have thought about that.
Part laboratory, part temple for the more than 200 families who lost people in this hull. They brought mementos to lay on the seats inside where their loved ones were sitting.
We have not been able to allow them to actually walk down through the center of it. It's pretty dangerous. And so either myself or somebody on my team would take those mementos and place them on the seat for the family members.
When you see loved ones that were affected by this, it really hammers home what you're doing and why.
Frank HILLDRUP is one of the people who put this reconstruction together. He's an investigator at the NTSB. The night the plane blew up, it was his job to figure out why.
Where do you start? Yeah, it's overwhelming, I will say sometimes.
The 4-year investigation that followed helped propel major changes to aviation safety, victim assistance, and accident investigation.
This is the center wing tank.
Reconstructing Flight 800 was about finding answers, but it also meant dispelling conspiracies.
A bomb, missile, which we knew we had speculation about that, ultimately happened in this case was an ignition of the fuel vapors in this tank.
Even now, there are those who refuse to believe the facts, who think Flight 800 was the casualty of a terror attack or military misfire.
Evidence of a bomb or a missile leaves dramatically different types of evidence on structure. There is absolutely no evidence of any bomb or missile damage in this wreckage.
Because of this investigation, the FAA changed requirements for how fuel tanks are put together, making our planes safer and preventing another Flight 800.
Sometimes we make recommendations that look like they're never going to get there, but that technology was developed and it's on aircraft today.
The physical will be replaced by the digital, a scan that will live on as a training tool.
You can visualize things, and I imagine you'll be able to actually visually get into the tank, where you can't really even now.
But the power of seeing in person this mangled skeleton of a plane can't be replicated.
We're working for those families. We're working to make sure no other families have to go through something like this again.
James Packard, Ashburn, Virginia.
James, thank you. Now, last year, 24,000 inmates were sent to home confinement as an effort to slow the spread of COVID. Federal law allows up to 6 months of a sentence to be served at home. Now that's expired for about 2,000 of those inmates, but a bipartisan group of criminal justice advocates are calling on President Biden to not send them back to prison. An Iowa senator says less than 1% have violated home confinement terms, and only 3 people have been arrested for new crimes.
First Alert Chief Meteorologist Matt Hines is standing by.
And we are looking at showers and thunderstorms progressing down to the south. And as we head toward 10 o'clock this evening, we should be in the clear as far as any rain is concerned. We will have partly cloudy skies, though, across the area. And we may become mostly cloudy as we move into Tuesday morning. A couple of areas of drizzle can't be ruled out. By Tuesday afternoon, a few isolated, widely scattered thunderstorms will be possible. Probably not as much as what we saw today. So in pockets there, keep the umbrella in the back seat just in the case. And just in case we want to do that again Wednesday, probably a good idea, as we will be seeing mostly cloudy skies in the morning, partly cloudy skies in the afternoon. And again, an isolated downpour will be possible. And if you happen to get under one of those, it'll come down pretty good, but it'll be in a short amount of time. And as we check out what we are tracking tonight, temperature-wise, into the low to mid 70s for 71 in Franklin, 73 Bryan College Station, Navasota right around 71 degrees. And then tomorrow, highs will be into the upper 80s and low 90s. So it is going to be well below normal for this time of year, about 5 to 6 degrees below normal. But when you factor in the humidity, it's going to feel like it's in the mid to upper 90s across the area. So it all kind of evens out here. But that at least looks better for mid-July. And it will continue to look decent here on the 10-day forecast. But remember, it's going to be muggy each and every afternoon. High temperatures around 90, 20 to 30% chances of rain. 92 on Thursday, and we will probably keep at least isolated storm chances around through Friday as temperatures start to come up into the mid-90s. And that's going to go right into your weekend. Rain chances going away. 96 Saturday and Sunday. More 90s on the way next week. But notice they're mid to upper 90s, so that means it'll feel like it's over 100.
The Federal Housing Finance Agency is dropping a 0.5% refinance fee on mortgages put in place almost a year ago. It was being tacked on to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae loans. Now, the change is supposed to take effect August 1st, but Bankrate says mortgage refinance rates are already falling. The average rate for refinances was 2.5% on Friday based on one analysis. That's a 0.4% drop in just a day. Some lenders have also already cut rates on 15 and 30-year fixed mortgages. Financial experts say it is proof that the fee didn't do what it was meant to do.
Frankly, it didn't pass the smell test from the beginning. The justification for it was that it was to recoup some of the costs of all the forbearance and payment relief that was being provided. The problem was the people that ended up paying this fee were those that were reducing their risk, not increasing their risk. They were reducing their monthly payments.
Bankrate says on a $300,000 mortgage, this fee dropped could be one of two things. It could reduce closing costs by about $1,500 or reduce your interest rate by 1/8 of a percentage point, saving you about $20 a month. Bankrate says mortgages need to be between $125,000 and $548,000 depending on the market to see the refinance benefit.
Also, VA loans, FHA loans, or really large loans known as jumbo loans were never assessed the fee, and so therefore don't see any benefit by the fee itself being repealed at this point.
Now, for those who this applies to, Bankrate says the math to refinance right now is compelling and could lead to a boom in refinancing. 100 years ago, there were more than 1 million black farmers. Today, there are fewer than 50,000.
If nothing is done to reverse that and to look at the inequities, there'll be no black farmers. These are real people and real families. that are going to be absolutely devastated by this.
How she and others are working to keep their family legacy alive. Close to 20,000 firefighters are on the front lines battling 80 large wildfires across the West as of today. Those numbers coming from the National Interagency Fire Center, and that includes the Bootleg Fire in Oregon, which is now the state's largest fire in modern history at more than 300,000 acres, which is about the size of Los Angeles. NOAA has predicted this will be a busy and active hurricane season. Stephanie Stone shows us how nonprofit aid groups have started their disaster preparation early because of this.
We are ready to go.
Steve Sterling is president and CEO of MAP International. The 65-year-old nonprofit exists to help people get access to medication. Their work is in more than 45 countries.
It's to ship containers of medicines for chronic diseases such as hypertension, cardiovascular, diabetes and asthma, and also antibiotics and prenatal vitamins.
Right now, though, their distribution centers in the U.S. are at the ready and have been ready since January. 10,000 disaster health kits, they say, are already pre-positioned in areas that are expected to get hit hardest this hurricane season.
Toothpaste, toothbrush, comb, washcloth, first aid kit, those type of items. And that's what we prepare and provide during disaster response, such as a hurricane.
Sterling says their volunteers started prepping in the winter, assuming that this year would be busy.
This year's been early. It seems like it's getting earlier. But normally during the springtime, February, March time period.
NOAA experts do not anticipate the historic number of storms we saw in 2020. But this year, they say, won't be quiet.
NOAA's outlook for the 2021 Atlanta hurricane season indicates that an above normal season is most likely.
Acting NOAA Administrator Ben Friedman detailed this year's statistics, saying there's a 60% chance of an above normal season and that there will likely be between 13 to 20 named storms and 3 to 5 major hurricanes. But he stressed all it takes is one to bring dangerous winds, deadly storm surges, and flooding.
If you're in a hurricane zone, now is the time to ensure that you have an evacuation plan in place, disaster supplies on hand, and a plan to secure your home quickly.
They urge early preparation, something that organizations like MAP have already done.
When you leave an area because of disaster hit, you don't even have a toothpaste or toothbrush. And so we try to give a little back to the humanity by having things like soap and shampoo and a comb, washcloth, first aid kit, and those type of items. So that could be really helpful to people who literally don't have anything when they leave because of a disaster.
I'm Stephanie Stone, reporting.
The newsfeed starts with another billionaire set to go to space. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos will launch on Tuesday. He'll fly in the first crewed flight of his private space company, Blue Origin. The flight will launch from Texas, last 11 minutes, and will spend just 4 minutes above the outer edge of Earth's atmosphere. Don't expect to see Britney Spears perform live. She says as long as her dad is in charge of her conservatorship, she won't be performing anytime soon. She said that in her Instagram post. The Free Britney movement has been pushing to end her father's control. History for Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. Tennis star Naomi Osaka has become the first female black athlete to be on the cover. She will be taking part in the Olympics in Tokyo just days from now. Well, there is a growing movement to help a community that has been slowly shrinking for decades. Lexa Liaco found for many black farmers, losing land is like losing legacy.
So this became the promised land. It became a place where they could call their own.
Named for a slave who bought his own freedom, Nicodemus, Kansas was the place where that feeling became a lifestyle.
This provided an opportunity for African Americans that wanted to leave the war-torn South and the Jim Crow South.
They came here to farm thousands of acres, a much greater opportunity compared to the few dozen acres most freed African Americans had in the South.
You know, we had that connotation that farming was equated to slavery, and we were not going to have any parts of that. But farming is equated to home ownership, land ownership, and prestige for your family, that you own something.
Great. Slow down.
There you go.
Dr. Janella Holmes's family were founding farmers of Nicodemus.
Good job. I'm a proud fifth-generation descendant.
But she and her family no longer farm the land. In fact, Nicodemus now has no African Americans actively harvesting the land themselves.
Yeah, this is a photograph of my mom and dad right here at the farm, early 90s. This is probably when it was taken.
The farmland owned by black families is leased out to white farmers. Angela Bates's farm is one of them.
Right now, I don't believe there's anybody but a couple of us that actually own land that we're leasing out to others that are farming, because who can afford a combine? Who could afford a John Deere tractor?
Diversity in farming has been shrinking for decades. 100 years ago, there were more than 1 million black farmers. Today, there are fewer than 50,000. High operating costs are part of that decline, but these women say discriminatory loan practices have driven many black farmers out of business.
If nothing is done to reverse that and to look at the inequities, there'll be no black farmers. These are real people and real families that are going to be absolutely devastated by this.
But these women are determined to stop this decline.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Angela runs a restaurant in town to support her dream of keeping her family's land forever.
Where are you guys from?
Colorado and Michigan.
Colorado and Michigan, huh? We have to be stewards of this legacy. We've got to do the best we can to maintain it so that we can pass it on to the next generation.
You did the perfect lines. I do the cutting.
And Janella is keeping her family legacy alive through education.
I want to make sure that our youth understand that there's pride in being a farmer.
She runs youth camps to show students Nicodemus's history.
Educating so that we can regain.
And through grants, she's bringing in tiny homes to bring farmers back to Nicodemus.
This is just a sign that Nicodemus is going to be here forever.
Planting every seed she can to see this community blossom once again in the years to come.
We need to realize that we're not going to be here forever, and that little dash between the time you're born and the time you die, that's your grand opportunity to do something.
We are people that have a pride and a history that defies what this looks like. Our history is absolutely America's history.
I'm Alexa Liaco reporting.
Thanks for joining us for KRHD News at 6. We'll be back tonight at 10 with more news and weather. Be sure to tune in. Until then, have a great evening.